Have you ever reached the end of a month knowing that you've definitely grown? Then you look at your business and you wonder why so little seems to have changed. You have more clarity. You are more courageous in really tricky conversations. Your boundaries are definitely stronger. You understand your purpose more deeply. Yet, the calendar is still crowded. The same important work keeps being pushed to the next week, and the business looks sadly familiar. If this is where you are, I want you to begin here. Your growth may be completely real, and your business may not have caught up yet. Welcome to Amplify with Purpose, the podcast for leaders and business owners who want their influence to mean something and their work to last. I'm Odette de Beer, and this is where we have honest conversations about clarity, leadership, faith, and becoming the person your purpose requires. Let's get into today's conversation. Over the years, I've noticed a pattern in conversations with capable women in business. They do the internal work. They become more self-aware. They learn to communicate more clearly. They hold stronger boundaries and make decisions from a deeper sense of purpose. Then comes the uncomfortable question. If I have changed this much, why does the business still feel as though it's standing in exactly the same place? There can be grief in that question. There can also be shame. A woman may begin to wonder whether personal growth was ever real, whether she lacks the discipline, or whether she's simply not built for the next level. I don't think those conclusions are always accurate, and I definitely don't think that they are helpful. Often the issue beneath the issue is what I like to call a translation gap. Who you have become has moved forward, and the business still operates in decisions and priorities and habits from earlier seasons. You may have become more confident, but your visibility still depends on whether or not you feel ready that morning. You may know which office matters the most, but your week still gives the loudest request the first claim to your attention. You may really have become more honest about your capacity, and still, your client promises assume an unlimited version of you. The growth is within you, but the way the work is structured has not yet changed to support it. I want to bring some research into this because the gap between knowing and doing is bigger than a motivation problem. Across areas like exercise, leadership, habit formation, the research points to the same pattern. Intention is important, although it doesn't automatically produce action. Planning helps. Action control, which is the process of noticing, monitoring, and adjusting what you are doing as you go, helps turn intention into follow-through. Leadership research brings this into the workplace. In one field experiment, leadership training was supported by practical prompts and regular development conversations. The learning became visible because people had repeated opportunities to apply a specific behavior in the flow of their everyday work. Habit research offers a gentle reminder. Consistency develops over time, and the timeline varies widely. Context, environment, personal choice, and repetition all influence whether a new behavior actually becomes established. This is why insight needs somewhere practical to live if you're going to survive a demanding week. Once you recognize the gap, the next question becomes very practical. What needs to change in the way that the business is being run? If your confidence has grown, that may need a change in how regularly you share your thinking. If your capacity has changed, a client promise or a recurring commitment may need to be redesigned. If your priorities are clearer, your calendar should now begin to reflect them. In practical terms, your new clarity needs to change a decision. The decisions need an owner. The action needs a place in the week, and your progress needs to be visible enough to review and adjust. This is how insight begins to shape the experience your clients, team, and your community actually receive. There are a few places translations tend to break. The first break happens when clarity stays private. You know what needs to change. You may have written all about it, prayed about it, or discussed it with someone you really trust. Yet, the old commitment is still in place because the insight never became a decision. So, ask yourself, what decision changed because of what I know now? If you cannot name one, the clarity may still be waiting for somewhere to land. The second break happens when the decision has nowhere practical to live. A sincere decision still needs a place to happen. If you want to become more visible, where does the thinking and creation happen? If client experience needs to be improved, which moment is being redesigned? If an offer is really important, which weekly rhythm will carry it? If capacity needs to be protected, which promise or boundary are you changing? The business catches up when the new decision can be found somewhere practical. In the calendar, a workflow, responsibility, the conversation, or maybe it's a measure. The third break happens when the action has no reinforcement. You take the first step, but the behavior depends on memory or emotional energy. Then a busy week arrives and your old pattern quietly returns because it's so easy. Reinforcement protects an important decision from disappearing under pressure. It may be a calendar cue, maybe it's a weekly review or an accountability conversation, maybe it's just a measure. Let me give you the full catalytic alignment to movement review. Question 1. What has become clearer or stronger within me? Take a moment to name the growth. You may be willing to be visible, more honest about capacity, clearer about your authority, or stronger in a conversation you once avoided. Question 2. Where is the change already visible in the business? Look for evidence. A proposal written with more clarity, a boundary communicated earlier, a promise delivered more consistently. Maybe it's a decision made without an unnecessary apology. The evidence is important because it helps you recognize where your growth is already producing movement. Question 3. Which priority, commitment, habit, or system is still operating from an earlier season? This is where we reveal the hidden friction. The diary, maybe it's your office suite or a client promise. Perhaps it's the follow-up process or a team rhythm that's still carrying assumptions that actually doesn't fit anymore. Question 4. What one decision, action, or measure will bring the business into greater alignment? One decision, one owner, one repeatable action, one way to recognize progress. Your business can keep carrying decisions you have already outgrown. You may be clearer, braver, and stronger in your business, while your calendar commitments and habits still belong to your earlier season. That is the translation gap. Personal growth becomes visible business movement when it changes a decision, has an owner, enters a consistent rhythm, and creates evidence you can review. So ask yourself, what part of my business is still running by a decision I've already outgrown? Choose one place where the business can catch up. Imagine you've grown in confidence and you know that your thinking needs to be more visible. The vague intention is, I need to post more. The translated decision sounds different. My priority is one thoughtful leadership post each week. I own the draft. A protected creation block gives the work a home. At the end of the week, I review whether I published the quality conversation the idea created. The purpose is to help your everyday behavior reflect the authority you've already developed. You could apply the same thinking to a sales follow-up, onboarding, team conversations, client delivery, boundaries, or even offer development. Before you plan the next month, give yourself 15 quiet minutes. Touch the heart by recognizing the woman you have become. Influence your mind by naming the translation gap without judging. Empower your hands by choosing one decision, one owner, one rhythm, and one measure. Your growth has expanded what is possible. The next step is to let the way you work carry the growth consistently. I have written the full research-led piece, including the studies and the complete review on my Substack. You will find the link in the show notes. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take this question with you. What part of the business is ready to catch up with the person that you've become? Chat soon.